It's the last day of the offsite. The meetings were productive, the energy was contagious, exactly what the team needed. The CEO pulls you aside to say, "Thank you, this was next level." And you smile because it felt that way to you too. You found the secret to delegating the logistics so you could focus on shaping your team's experience. You used Offsite. They handled the venues, the negotiations, the logistics, and together you created an experience that will move your business forward. Sound too good to be true? It's actually within reach, and it can even save you money. See how at leaderassistant.com/offsite.
The Leader Assistant podcast exists to encourage and challenge assistants to become confident, game-changing leader assistants.
Hey friends, welcome to the Leader Assistant Podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Burrows, and this is episode 381. You can check out the show notes for this conversation at leaderassistant.com/381. Today, I am really excited to be speaking with Ashley Langlais. Ashley is Chief of Staff at DVx Ventures, and we've got a fun conversation in store for you. So first off, welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What part of the world are you in, and what do you like to do when you're not working?
I am right outside of Boston. And when I'm not working, I have a 4-year-old son named Remy. And so I feel like I'm still maybe still considered a new mom. So I think just doing things with him, like playgrounds and aquariums and zoos, I feel like my whole spare time is focused on that. So it's been fun.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
You said 4?
He's 4, yeah.
4, wow. That's a fun age. Mine are 12 and 14 now, so it's been a while.
Yeah. So yeah. Do you have boys?
Yes.
Yeah. So the physical nature
Oh, yes.
and the high energy that
yes.
you deal with. Yep.
Love it. Well, tell us a little bit about your career. How did you get started in the support roles? Were you an assistant before you were a chief of staff? Tell us a little bit about your career journey.
So out of college, I had a few admin roles in various industries. I was in media right outside of college, and I worked in a hospital for a few years. But I'd say I was an admin assistant at Cambridge Associates, which is a investment consulting firm. And I think there is where I really found my career. So I was an admin assistant there. I supported 8 executives across 3 teams. It was kind of crazy. And I felt like, I couldn't make an impact on the executives themselves. And that's the part of the job that I really liked. And surprisingly, I didn't even know that an executive assistant role existed. But because that was the part of the job that I liked, I was doing some research, speaking to recruiters, and I found the executive assistant role. And I was like, that's exactly the role that I want. So after Cambridge, I worked at GH Smart, which is a boutique consulting firm. They consult on human capital. I don't know if you've ever come across the WHO method for hiring in your...
I don't know. Maybe if you kind of give me the short summary, it'll
it's just it's an approach to hiring, just one of the approaches that
Mm-hmm.
People in that space use. And side note, their book, Jeff Smart and Randy Street's book, Who, is very good. Highly recommend.
Nice.
And that explains the method. But anyway, so they created that method, and I loved my time there. I supported 2 principals, loved them, loved the EA team. It was remote before COVID. So their model was like freedom and flexibility. And they were just like such forward thinkers, love them. Anyways, I was there for about 4 years, and then an EA that I worked with previously we reconnected, and she said, "Oh, I heard of this like really cool executive that's looking for an assistant." And I was like, "Well, I'm not really looking for a job, whatever." And she was like, "I would like really encourage you to have a conversation with him." So I looked at like his profile, and I'm like, okay, like the former president of Tesla, like the former COO of Lyft. I was like, if this person wants to have a conversation with me, then sure, I'll have a conversation with him. So I did, and that's like where it all started. During the interview, my CEO now was like, I'm on this board, I'm an advisory partner over here, I'm doing this project. Oh, and I'm starting a venture studio. And I just couldn't I was just like, I couldn't not take this opportunity to like do all these exciting things with him. So
Right.
It's been 6 years now at DVx. We built it to we've launched 12 companies. We have about 100 employees across the portfolio. So yeah, it's been kind of like a wild ride.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you first started working with the current executive, was the title executive assistant and then it morphed to chief of staff, or did it start with chief of staff?
Correct. No, it was executive assistant, sort of like manager of the CEO office, basically. So yeah, when I started, I supported him and then the other founders. So it started as 3 founders, and then we hired we took on another partner. So we had 4. And I was primarily supporting the CEO, and then just other, lightly supporting the others, I'd say, until it got a little heavy, and I recommended hiring another executive assistant to take on 2 of the partners. So that's kind of where we're at now. The chief of staff role happened because I think it was about 2 years into it. I sort of just asked to really change my title. The reason was I felt like it was branding for me. I needed the brand, as awful as it sounds, for external people, and also inside, because I was doing so many different things. I was sending out, offer letters to people, and salary changes to people, or, telling the CEOs of our portfolio companies, we need this, this, and this from you. And I just felt so internally I needed that branding. And then externally, I was speaking to lawyers and tax consultants and, all of those external resources. I felt like I needed that branding in order to, I don't know, not taken seriously, but just so they understood why they are on the phone with me, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And I like that you were able to present that business case and that your executive was supportive of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I was doing the role without the title. And so I was I need the title in order to bring it all together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's super great. Sounds like a fun, adventurous career. Thanks for sharing. And, today I would really like to dive into really overall concept of supporting the goals of your CEO, supporting the goals of your executive. But specifically, you reached out and we connected because your support of your CEO kind of went to a specific project of publishing a book, publishing and writing. Your CEO wrote his first book, right? And so
Yeah.
you were very, very involved in that. And so I want to kind of walk through that journey. And if you're listening, and you're like, my executive would never write a book. If they did, no one would want to read it. That's okay. There's probably other goals that your executive has that you can own as your own goals, and you can help them execute and reach those goals. So even if it's not specifically a book, I think this is going to be a helpful conversation. But I'm also excited to chat with you, Ashley, because I've helped my former executive. I helped publish books, and was kind of part of that whole process. And then my current executive has tons of ideas, but one of those is also publishing a book. So this is very
Yeah.
relevant to me in my assistant role. And again, if assistants listening, if your executives maybe not writing a book, there's probably some big project that they want to do that you can learn a lot about in this conversation. So let's start with what was it like supporting your CEO through writing his first book?
It was not what I expected it to be. I know you're not a stranger to, this process in that world, but so, you'll be familiar with everything that I say, but I just felt like it was going to be a lot more straightforward and easier. I wasn't ready for how complex the publishing world is, and not just that there's so many different avenues in which to publish a book nowadays, but also there's so many different players. You need the editor and the agent and the ghostwriter and the publicist. And there was just so many different players. So I think navigating the industry was the first step, and also one of the most challenging parts of the process.
Gotcha. So I'm curious. So when did the idea first hit your desk? When was it hey, I'm going to write a book, and by the way, you're going to help me?
Yeah. So we were in our annual partnership review. That's what I call my annual reviews, because I think it's helpful to position it that way so that you can get, as much information from your executive in terms of goals and priorities for the year. So we were talking about goals, and he said, this year my goal is to write a book. And at that point, it became my goal for the year. And so I was all right, let's do this. So that's when it happened. I think, I said, it was challenging because neither of us are from the publishing world. And we don't have direct contacts in that world, but he has a huge network, and I feel like I have a decent network, in my own right. And so I thought between the two of us, I would connect with somebody and they would be oh, sure. Here's my agent, or here's my editor. And it would and it's done, but it didn't happen that way. And so I had to do a lot of research and speak to a lot of different people in the space and near the space in order to really understand that world, and to really find the right team for us,
Yeah. What was the publishing side? So with my former executive, he had, I think when I started working with him, he had already published a book that had done pretty decent. So he was talking to publishers. But then for me personally, with my book, The Leader Assistant, I had not published anything. I was kind of getting going, and I had done a bunch of research, and I had a friend that had done self-publishing with a publishing partner that kind of helps you through the process, but doesn't actually own the rights to the book or distribute it necessarily. They just kind of help you get through the self-publishing process. So how did you guys determine whether or not you would self-publish or traditional publish?
Yeah. So great question. Again, I didn't know that there were different approaches to publishing. I thought traditional was the way to go. So that's where I sort of started. So our initial approach was my CEO is a fantastic writer, but he has a day job and he doesn't necessarily have all this time and just 100% focus to the book. So we were we need a ghostwriter or a co-author, someone to help him write the book. So our approach was to find a co-author that came with relationships and knowledge of the process, right? That was difficult to find. because, and I talked to many, and first of all, they're hard to find because they're ghostwriters, right? But I did speak to some, and some, were either in between projects or just weren't a great fit for my CEO, or one of them that I talked to was like his platform's not big enough, and he's going up against like Michelle Obama's book, like build the platform and then come back. And I'm like, wait a minute, like he has to be a celebrity, a former first lady to write a book, like what? So I don't know. So that avenue just, I felt like wasn't working. So that is when I did do some research into like hybrid publishing and self-publishing. But my CEO really wanted to make sure that traditional route with a top publisher with a healthy advance was off the table before we did something else, at least for his first book, So how I ended up finding somebody, do you want to hear?
Yeah.
So he had sent me this article that I think he read from like the Information. And the article was something like, here are the ghostwriters behind bestsellers. And it featured 5. And so and their contact information was like listed, or their website or something. So I reached out to 2 of them that had the most bestsellers among the 5 and had like a business book in their library. And one of them, the one that responded, her name was Carly Adler. She co-authored like Mark Benioff's book, Behind the Clouds, I think it is, and like Maynard Webb's book. And I'm like, there's no way that these people are going to respond to me, or not to me, to John, because I reached out as my CEO with the pitch.
Right.
But she did, and she was like all about the idea and was, very like welcoming to have a call with me. But she was working on another project, and we kind of went back and forth for a few months. And then she was finally like, I'm not available, but I believe in the book. And so introduced us to our now agent.
Gotcha.
So like the initial approach ended up working. It just took a few repetitions.
Right. Yeah. And it's not like you had like it was a little bit of a roundabout way, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, go here, do this. It just kind of had to. Totally
roundabout. And also like, don't be afraid to cold call, because you never know who's going to pick up the phone. Like I kind of can't believe that she did.
Nice. So, okay. So you got that, you worked with an agent. Did you then start writing, or did you try to get the agreement with the publisher first? Like, how did that, like, and was it even a like, did the agent think, oh, we can get a deal, or was this kind of like, well, we'll see? And you know what I mean? Like before you moved forward with the project, you had to figure out, is it going to end up a traditional route?
Yeah, totally. And so like a book proposal is something that you need. So like, I think the way, like the process is to get the agent, then you write the proposal and you shop that around to the publishers. But because I was looking into other avenues like hybrid publishing or something like that, like within those few months, like we pretty much had wrote the proposal, because we like wrote the pitch to sort of get people interested. And then, I added all of the things that you need in a proposal, like how big my CEO's platform is and all of like the media appearances he's had, whatever. So once we got the agent, we pretty much did have that proposal. The agent he was like pretty certain that it would get a deal. I don't know if that's a different experience than you had, but yeah, he was pretty certain. I don't know if he only takes on books that he's certain about or what, but
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you were like, all right, we're going to do this. So then you started submitting the proposal to different publishers?
Yeah. So the agent, so okay, so as I said, like there's many different players. The agent I found is like that's the person that does connect you to the publisher to get the deal. But they're also, and I don't know if this is true of all agents, but this one in particular was like the one that guided us through the process. Like anytime we had questions or wanted recommendations or wanted guidance, like that was the one that we went to. It seemed like the agent's kind of like looking out for the author. I don't know if that's like everybody's experience, but ours was really good in that sort of way. So yeah, so he connected us to the publishers, and we got a few offers, and then took one of them. So
Wow, that's great.
yeah, yeah.
What would you say? So, if there is assistants, listening that are like, "Hey, my executive wants to write a book as well," their
Mhm.
audience, they're thinking, "Okay, their audience is this size, or their reach is this far." Um, are there kind of some ballpark numbers or ballpark, you know, goals for an executive's reach that those listening could maybe help their executives aspire to try and
Yeah.
get to the level, I guess, if you will, of where a publisher would actually consider it? Or your experience, was there any sort of like, hey, if you have, an email list of 30,000, or if you have a LinkedIn following of 50,000, or are there any sort of benchmarks that you saw during that process that were like, oh, this would help?
I mean, that's what when I was talking to that ghostwriter, like that's what she was saying, that you need like a newsletter of like thousands and 50,000 LinkedIn and Twitter following. When once we got but Carly didn't think that. The one that ended up like connecting us with the agent, she didn't. She was like, I'm actually surprised that you got that feedback. Like, I think the contents of the book is, pretty interesting in its own right. Your CEO does have a decent following. It's not like mind blowing, but like he's on CNBC regularly as a commentator. Like he is out there. I will say though, we did take some time. So we hired a comms team. We have like a contractor comms team that worked to build my CEO's brand even before like the book. So, yeah, so they did like increase his followers on like LinkedIn, but it's like 15,000. It's not like 50. And they did like increase his, like his media hits and his appearances in media, like thought leadership, op-eds and stuff. Like they helped with that. So they did like boost his brand a little bit. And I do think that probably is helpful. If your executive is going to write a book one day.
Gotcha. Awesome. Super helpful. Um, let's dive into the writing process. So, how did you specifically support the writing process?
So this was interesting too. I think so there are a lot of challenges to this project. Navigating the industry, one of them. But like the second one, and I think this always comes up in our types of roles, but it was like not really knowing my role or how I can support. Because I'm like the first time support to a first time author. Like, I don't know what the process looks like,
Right.
and I don't know where I can be helpful yet. But going back just a little bit, even before the book came about. So my CEO was speaking at the World Business Forum, a couple of those like around the world, and he was writing a speech for it. And I felt like this was an area that I could totally help him with, but I'm not quite sure how to write a speech for him. Like, you know what I mean? So I asked one of my mentors and I was like, do you have any advice? Like, I really feel like this is a place where I can add value, but I'm not quite sure I'm not quite sure how to go about it. And she was like, well, you could offer to be like a blank page, because that's always the the tough part of the writing process is kind of like, where do I start? So have like a session with him, do a brain dump, you collect the notes, organize them in a way that makes sense, and like highlight areas that resonate with you and then build off that. So that's what I offered to my CEO. And my CEO is very self-sufficient. Like I was surprised that he took me up on my offer. Like he would never ask me to help him with that. Like he doesn't know. I don't think he knows that I could be helpful in that type of a scenario, right? So he said yes, and so I was thrilled. I got like my foot in the door to help him with something else, expand my role, and so, but he sent me what he had, and he pretty much already had the outline. Like what he needed was kind of like to fill in the gaps with like stories that sort of like illustrate the points that he's making in the speech, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so so we had like a riff session on that. I watched like all of the podcasts, all of the YouTube videos that are out there on him. I took like any kind of like notes that I felt like in meetings could be an example of something we could like elaborate on for this speech. I like collected all of these examples, and then during the riff sesh, we like talked about them and just built the content that way, or finalized it really. So I was already familiar. So the book is based on that content. So I was already familiar with the content and already kind of like involved in that part of the process. But once we got the book deal with the agent, also the agent found us a co-author. So like that's also gotcha. A role of an agent also. So, all right. So now my CEO has the co-author. He doesn't really need me to help him with like the writing sessions and everything. So like, how can I be helpful through the writing process? And so again, wasn't quite sure like what my role looked like in this phase. So I just joined everything I could to start so I could figure out like, okay, where are areas where I can be most helpful? So I started like in the writing sessions with my CEO and his co-author. And I was like, I don't need to be in these writing sessions, you know, like the co-author's got it. Like he's good at, you know, his job. He knows what he's doing. But like I can help behind the scenes managing the workflow. Like I want to review all the drafts that come through to make sure, you know, all of the points that my CEO wanted to make are made, or if I have any thoughts of what we could add to like make it even like more of a robust example or something like that. Like I stayed involved, just more of like a behind the scenes role.
Gotcha. Nice. So did it conflict, or I guess one thing I'm thinking through is, you know, you mentioned, you know, your CEO has a day job and you obviously have a day job. So like, how was this just something that you slotted in, right? Like slotted in times, or, you know, how did that conflict with at times? You know, did you feel like it was pulling you away sometimes from your day job, if you will?
Yeah, and even now, because the book just launched on March 24th. So there's still a lot of promotion going on now. I felt like throughout this process, this was probably like a 2-year process from when my CEO said he wanted to write the book to when it got published, exactly 2 years. And so it definitely was like periods of heaviness and then periods of not so heaviness. So like during the actual writing of the book, it was like more manageable, you know? Right. But I would say like the heaviest part was launch, like promoting for the book. So like pre-launch was the heaviest part because there's just so many like interviews and appearances and travel and everything that my CEO needed to do so that it could all come out around like launch time, you know? And, you know, like I said, like we have investor meetings, as you know, like same with you. We have investor meetings and we have like, he has a bunch of speaking events, and we have like internal ops reviews and IC meetings, and so it was a challenging time because there was so many competing priorities for my CEO's time. And I would say like still now, I'm not out of it yet, but yeah, but I think just always going back to like prioritizing, it's like, how does this fit in the list of priority? And if it's not on the list of priority, it doesn't fit in. Yeah. I also think there's something to note too, where, well, two things really, like during this time, I think to keep in mind that, you're not just managing your executive's calendar, but it's also like you're managing their energy, because they're not just doing, even if it's not just travel, but it's like, how many pitches can he do in one day? Not just book pitches or promotion, but also like the investor pitches or a speaking event, or even like a pre-call to a speaking event, so that like he's brainstorming and having these thoughts. Like, how many high output meetings can you stack on in one day? Like, definitely needed to be more mindful of that than like, any other time, I guess. And then also, like, there was some times where my CEO was feeling like a little burnt out and would be like, let's push that podcast off until post-launch. And I would push back and be like, here are the metrics. Here's the recommendation from the publicist. Like, how many books are you going to publish in a year? This one moves the needle. Like, I'll try to make your travel as comfortable as possible. I'll stack on other meetings to make your time as efficient as possible. But I really think you should reconsider doing this podcast, So there is like some sort of like managing that too,
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, what would you say this experience did to changed how you thought about, or, how you work in your role? What was the biggest difference, or what did this experience do to how you view your role?
I think that it made me reflect on the role itself, and it's kind of like the role is not clearly defined. And I think that's part of it. That's like the challenge of the role is that it's not clearly defined, but it's also kind of the beauty of the role, because you can make it as involved, as strategic, as like impactful as you want. And that your executive gives you the room to operate in. And I think like it's exciting,
Yeah, I love that. Well, to kind of close the loop, and thanks for sharing that journey. I know I'm sitting here, my wheels are spinning because I'm thinking, all right, what parts of this process am I going to have to hit you up for help on for my executive?
Like, I can only share my experience, which I know, like, I don't know if it's like, a cookie cutter experience across the board. So, but I'm happy to share and help how I can.
Awesome. But to wrap it up, I would love to hear kind of the high level from your experience. What do you feel makes you effective in the role of chief of staff? And maybe even just a tidbit for those listening who are currently in the assistant role, or maybe they're in the chief of staff role with the assistant title.
Yeah.
What would you say is, what's made you effective in that role?
I think like for me, the role was earned by like creating value. And the best way that I was able to create value was through access. And so I think like that's kind of like first and foremost is to like gain that access. So like ask to be in meetings, ask to be looped into conversations, ask to be part of a project that might not be in your wheelhouse, because like you're going to gain context and business knowledge, and you're going to be able to create value with that knowledge, like knowledge is power. That's always what I think. But the way that I ask for that access is not like, hey, do you think I should join the board meeting? It's, would you mind if I join the board meeting so I can take notes, track action items, and gain context? And the way, if you position it that way, I've never been told no. And then when you start adding value based on like the information that you're getting from those meetings, then you don't even have to ask to be in them anymore because like you're expected to be in them.
That's well said. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley, for your time, and keep up the great work and your support for your CEO and your team. And what's the best place for people to reach out if they want to just connect and say hi?
LinkedIn probably is the best place. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll put your LinkedIn link in the show notes at leaderassistant.com/381. Again, leaderassistant.com/381. And check out all the links in the bio and all that fun stuff in the show notes. So thanks again, Ashley. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk soon.
Please review on Apple Podcasts. GoBulls.com.
The Leader Assistant Academy is an AI-powered, on-demand professional development resource. It's for growth-minded executive assistants and administrative professionals just like you. When you enroll in the Academy, you get access to the Leader Assistant course plus streaming access to the audiobook. The course includes video lessons for each chapter of the Leader Assistant book, as well as the entirety of the Leader Assistant workbook study and discussion guide. Additionally, you get access to my exclusive Academy newsletter where I share thoughts on the state of the administrative profession, behind the scenes of my business, and sneak peeks at upcoming projects. Your enrollment also includes a one-on-one 25-minute coaching session with yours truly. But my favorite part of the Academy is the AI agent, which I've named ACE. ACE is the only AI agent on Earth trained on the Leader Assistant book, workbook, course, and Academy newsletter. So if you need guidance at 2 a.m. on a Thursday because you have a big meeting coming up with your executive and you want to ask for help, you can log on to the Academy, interact with ACE, and this AI agent will help you along your journey, guiding you to specific resources that are actually helpful in that moment. To find out more and enroll in the Leader Assistant Academy, visit leaderassistant.com/academy.